And here we have it. The man that played in the big leagues for 14 years, won 4 Golden Gloves, 2 Silver Slugger Awards. I mean, and Bret Boone. First of all, I would never think a guy your height that could hit bombs like that. I mean, bombs. What's happening, brother?
How you doing, Eddie? Yeah, we got we talked about it earlier. It's moving day for my daughter. She's moving apartments, so yeah, I'll tell you, you gave me a good excuse to get out of a little work right now. So we got the new apartment just moved in. We got a little surfboard in the background. If you can see that.
I, yeah.
Other than that, new place. You got me good lighting. I think you taught me the ropes a little bit, so we're ready to go.
Well, you know what? Welcome to the big leagues on the Eddie Mata Show, baby.
Oh, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
Bret,
Brought you some facial hair. No one's ever seen me with facial hair.
I know. Usually you have that all American look,
Yeah, yeah,
clean
yeah.
shaven, you know.
Yeah, it's a Corona crisis. I'm going through a Corona crisis.
All right, well, listen, as long as you and your family is healthy, that's all that counts, right?
Yeah, with all that's going on, I'm pretty blessed. We've kept it together. I've gotten to spend some more time with the family, sometimes a little more time than I want, and probably goes both ways. But we're holding down the fort. We're doing all right.
So how many kids do you have, Bret?
I've got four. I got Savannah. She's moving today. She's my oldest. She's been out of the house now for a couple of years. But I've got my son Jake, who's a junior in college, and he's been home. Which normally he wouldn't be home right now. So that's the time I've got to spend, which normally I wouldn't. And then I got 15-year-old twin boys they'll be going in their junior year next year, and I have those rugrats all the time. But
Are they playing baseball too?
they are. They are.
Wow, what a family. Speaking of bless, Bret, you had to be spoiled when it comes to the baseball environment and atmosphere when you were a kid, right? I mean, what was it like? You wake up, let's say you're 6, 7 years old, right? Was it baseball every day? Was that your lifestyle when you were a kid?
Well, for me, it was. It was, without a doubt, the environment I grew up in. And the earliest influence on me was my grandfather. I spent a lot of time with him between the ages of probably 1 and 4 or 5. I spent a lot of time with Grandpa, and every day I remember him telling me the stories how I'd wake him up at 5 in the morning and say, "Gramps, I'd have all the catching gear on. So let's play." So from a young age, that's all I remember ever wanting to do. And then, we kind of morphed into, my dad's world was, he played for the Phillies he ended up playing 19 years and pretty much my whole childhood. So, for me, when I was young, my biggest thing was, man, if dad tells me I can't go to the ballpark today, my world is over. That's all I wanted to do is go to the ballpark, put my uniform on, go hang out with the guys, go shag. So, I had a pretty cool childhood. I think at the time you don't really appreciate how cool it is, and when you grow up a little bit, and now you're doing it for a living. You look back and you go, "I wish I was that kid that just showered before the game and went up and ate hot dogs with mom."
Yeah.
Especially when you're about one for your last 16. But you tend to enjoy and appreciate those times after it's all said and done. When you grow up a little bit and life's hitting you a little bit, it's pretty special time.
When you were a kid, like for instance, it was Little League, right? Let's say you were 12 years old and your brother Aaron was 8. And you guys want to play, like you want to go play outside. Would your parents say, take your brother with you? And you'd be like, no, he ain't.
Oh, believe it, I grew up in Jersey. That's how you roll back there, and it's
Right.
it's not. Most of the time, mom, you will take your little brother. And Aaron was actually a good sport. My buddies liked Aaron.
Mm-hmm.
There are certain times when you're 14 where it's not cool for the 10-year-old brother to be banging along with you guys.
But I
But
mean,
for the most part, yeah, for the most part though, I'd bring. He was accepted by my friends. Aaron would hang around sometimes if the game was a little above his age.
mm-hmm.
Uh, he'd be the announcer in the room. So Aaron always tagged along with us, and for the most part, when I started getting a little older, I was 15, 16 in high school. Aaron, 12-year-old brother, it ain't cool showing up on a date with your 12-year-old brother. So,
Could you,
but yeah, we had a good time as kids. We had a good time. It was the perfect age gap.
did you pick on him a lot? Did you beat him up? Did you make him do stuff for you?
Yeah, I think no different than any other younger brother. It was kind of like, hey, you want to hang out with me and the boys today? Mom said I had to take out the trash, but that means you have to take out the trash. So the little things that we all do with our little brother. If you're a big brother, you know what I'm talking about.
So your work.
Still to this day.
Huh? Say that again.
Still to this day, if he calls me, he better listen what I say.
I love it, man. I love it. I love the fact that I could paint the picture how you would like pick on him, headlock him. You know what I mean? Have all that. Typical bro. I did that to my younger brother. I mean, that's how it was.
Yeah, who doesn't do that? The one time that I kind of got not scared, but I kind of felt bad. We used to box. Aaron will tell you this story. We used to box all the time, and I'd let him wear the headgear. The older brother always lets the younger brother, and he caught me with the shit, and you'd go to him, hey, come on, come get me, come
Right.
get me. And you never let your little brother hit you because they're too young and they're not quick enough. And one day he caught me square on the jaw, and I mean rattled me a little bit. And it was just that instant adrenaline, like how dare you catch me with a good shot when you never catch me with a good shot. And I just came around the corner and wham, hit him pretty good, harder than I should hit my 4 years younger than me brother. And we took the headgear off, and I mean he had a cauliflower ear and black and blue, and I'm like, oh no, mom's gonna kill me. But other than that, we kept it pretty friendly.
So when you guys were kids too, in the summertime, obviously there wasn't any school. You would be at the ballparks all summer.
Oh, that was my thing. Every day. It was, hey, Dad, can I go to the park today? Yeah, you can go. But man, those days where he said no, it was like the end of my world. But and I learned that as I got, as I started playing, and I had young kids, and once in a while I take them to the ballpark. But when you're a kid, you don't really realize that. Like, Dad, you don't understand. These guys are depending on me to shag fly balls during batting practice. If I'm not there, the ship's not going to be right. His side of it is, Brett, I know you love coming to the ballpark, but I've got a job to do, and you kind of get in the way sometimes. Because even though he really didn't have to keep an eye on me, I could handle myself at the ballpark. It's still, around game times, you never knew what I was getting into. It's always that eye that once in a while he wouldn't take me because probably he needed that break to just have a day to himself where we could go in and relax and not have to worry about where Brett is and what I was getting into,
Yeah.
when he had a 7:05 game. So yeah, pretty cool childhood though. And I have no dad was pretty good about it.
Out of all the kids that came to the park, all the dads that had their kids, did any of them, did they make it to the big leagues too, or was it just you and Aaron? If you could remember.
Me and Aaron, Pete Rose Jr. got there for a second
Mm-hmm.
with Cincinnati. I played in a game with him. I think he played first base in 1998, maybe. He got a call up at the end of the season. No, the McGraws, the Carltons.
Schmidt.
Schmitty didn't have any kids at that time, our age. So it was pretty much Tug's kids and Carlton's kids were around a little bit. Ryan Luzinski,
Mm-hmm.
Greg's son, he played in the minor leagues. Aaron and myself and Pete Rose Jr. So that was basically the crew. And I think I was the oldest, so I got to go to the park the most. So I was the boss. I was the boss of the kids.
You were the boss of the bosses, right? You were like, I run the show. You listen to me. You take right field. I'll go to center. You go to left. That's how it's gonna be, right? That's what you told them.
Yeah. Oh. Well, I go wherever. Well, some days I didn't feel like going to center, so I'd go to right.
Oh,
shorter walk.
But you would see, like, let's say if Schmitty's hitting, so you're gonna go to left field in batting practice, right?
Yeah, and the guys were, for the most part, 90% of the guys were great because I stayed out of their way. I was power shagging. I was going after balls. They didn't want to go after. When you're 10 years old,
Yeah.
it's like run through that wall and you're like, okay, you got all the energy in the world. So most of the guys were pretty, handle me with kid gloves. I mean, they were pretty cool. to be a 10-year-old snot-nosed kid getting in their way, taking their ground balls. And most of the guys were pretty darn good. There was a few times where I pushed the envelope a little bit, and probably they were getting ready for a game. It's like, come on, Brett, could you get out of here? I got a job to do. So I'm sure there were those incidents, but for the most part, the guys were pretty awesome.
Right, Brett, but I'm sure you were a sarcastic bastard back then too, right? A little bit? Come on now.
I was a pain in the ass. Yeah.
I love it. Brett, what was the best advice Pete Rose told you at a young age?
Oh, Pete.
Give me a classic story with Petey.
Well, I'll give you a story. I don't know if he gave me any advice.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, story. Well, have you heard the story that his son tells? It's the best story I've ever heard, and I'll try to retell it, but believe me, it doesn't do it any justice.
Go ahead.
Pete ended up after, and I stayed in contact with Pete Rose Jr. and I talked to him time to time, and he tells me the story of Pete when he went to jail, the day he got out of jail, and he tells it, and he's so funny because he talks in the third person,
mm-hmm.
and Junior calls Senior the Hit King, and I named Pete Rose Jr. the Hit Prince.
Oh, okay.
So he tells the story like this, and he goes, "Yeah, Booney. So being the Prince, I call up the Hit King. I say, hey, Hit King, you're getting out of jail today. What time do you need me to be there?" And he tells him the time, and he goes, "Yeah, going to pick up the Hit King. Head over to the," he calls it the clink. He goes, "Here comes the Hit King out.
Mm-hmm.
Done with his time." He gets in the car, and he says, "Hey, King, what do you want to do?" He said, "I want to get a hamburger." He goes, "Hit King wants to get a hamburger? Go get a hamburger." Pull through a McDonald's, get him, quarter pound of cheese and fries. He said, "Dad, Hit King, what do you want to do next?" He says, "What's that over there?" He says, "Miniature golf course." And he says, "Let's pull in there. They got batting cages, don't they?" He says, "Yeah." Pulls in. He says, they go over, they get a bat, get a helmet. He goes, "Now the crowd is starting to gather around the cage because they know it's the Hit King." And he, like I said, I can't do his story justice. It's not even close. But he says, so he tells me, he says, "Petey," he said, "crank that thing up as fast as it'll throw." And he said, "All right." He said the cage is about 84 miles an hour. And he said, "Now he goes, the crowd starts to gather as the Hit King gets ready." He said, "The first pitch, he hits a line drive back up the middle, hits the arm on the batting cage, and shuts it off." He said he slams down his bat, slams down his helmet, says to the small crowd that's gathered, "Ladies and gentlemen, some things never fucking change." And he walks out of the cage. And it's the best story. And like I said, I don't do it justice. But when Petey tells it, I mean, he had me on the ground because I know Pete, and I know the passion he has for the game, and just his personality. And it sounded so much like I remember as a kid growing up with him. And the stories I've got through the years, of a lot of people.
No, I hear you.
Pretty cool.
So after high school, you went to USC. You put up numbers. All right, you teared it up, but then you were disappointed. But you're like, well, wait a minute. How come I got drafted in the 5th round? What's going on? I'm definitely a top 2 rounds, right? Were you like that?
Well, yeah, SC. I went in, and I was that perennial preseason All-American. I came in as a freshman, and I was an All-American as a freshman, and then I was the preseason All-American pick that never was an All-American. So I go into my junior year, and I'm back then we looked at Baseball America. We looked at magazines. We didn't have the internet and people 8 different publications. Baseball America was kind of that. And preseason I was go like 24th or 26th overall, and I said, if it's still first round, that's great. I went out. I had a mediocre junior year, and we went to a regional that year, and I had an unbelievable regional. I just tore it up, and I just thought, well, I had a little bit of a down year. That might have got me back in the first round. And I'll never forget the call. And this is me when I'm 21 years old, just as naive as you possibly be, but at the same time as passionate what I believed in I could be. And I got that phone call, and they said, "You got good news and bad news." And I said, "What's the good news?" He said, "The good news is we're the Seattle Mariners, and we got you." I said, "The bad news is you're not going to like where you were picked." And I said, "Oh, geez, 3rd round? Nope. 5th round." And I almost dropped the phone. And I remember being so angry and stomping around the house, and my dad just looking at me laughing, going, you know what? What are you going to do? Pout all day? He said, they're not going to redo the draft for you. He said, it is what it is. You sign for as much as you can possibly get. And my suggestion to you is to go out and play. So your first minor league season will be in Double-A. And it was, my dad didn't give me too much advice throughout my life. 3 or 4 poignant times in life he did, and he's usually always right. Mm-hmm. And sure enough, I signed within a couple weeks. I went to Carolina in the Peninsula, Virginia. Had a good, what back then was the short season. And I started in Double-A, and a year later I was in the big leagues. And, it is what it is. You get the opportunity, and it's what you do with it. It doesn't matter. I guess for status days, it matters where you're drafted, how you come in, how people perceive you, how much was your signing bonus. I get all that. I'm going through that with a son right now as a junior in college and didn't get drafted yesterday. And he was a little disappointed, but he was one of those guys that was predicted to be a 4th to 8th round pick. And now, with the 5 rounds, yesterday he didn't get drafted. And he's fine. He's a senior at Princeton next year, and he's going to get his degree, and he'll get into the draft next year. But, it was a thing. I look back now and I laugh because it's how irrelevant it is where you're picked. Mm-hmm. Because there's 2 things. You can either play or you can't play.
Right.
If you can't play, if you ain't good enough, you got to go get a job anyway. And if you're not, or if you are good enough, you play a long time in the big leagues. So, I'm going through it now with a son that's going to have an opportunity.
We'll talk about your son towards the end. I definitely want to talk about your son at Princeton. I know he got drafted by the Nationals 2 years ago, right, out of high school.
Yeah.
So, Bret, where were you when you got the call and said, buddy, you're going to the big leagues?
I was in Calgary, Canada. That was my AAA. And a guy named Keith Bodie was the manager, and he was really tough on me. It was more tough love, tough in a good way, because I was young, mm-hmm. and I was probably the youngest guy on the team. And I remember I got a base hit to right field, rounded first, came back, and some guy came out. I forget who the pinch runner was. He said, Skip told me to run for you. And I said, don't waste your time. Go back. He goes, no, he told me to run for you. Here comes the skipper out of the dugout. And he's from New York. He's got that tough guy attitude. He gets in my face and he says, listen, when I send a pinch runner out, you get your ass out of the game. And I said, why would you do that? He goes, you didn't hustle out of the box. I said, the FI didn't. Nobody's running for me. I'm playing. He said, I'll tell you what, you don't get out of this game. I slam my helmet down. I'm pissed. Pinch runner. Because I knew I ran hard.
Right.
I get back in the dugout. He comes over to me, looks at me, and he's yelling at me in my face. And he goes, you're going to the big leagues. And it was I was like, what? And it just kind of hit me like, it was unbelievable. And next thing I know, I was going off the field and kind of on a cloud, like what just happened? I was just in this full-on argument. And then I realized he had to come up with something unique to kind of trick me into it. But pretty cool. I went home, made my phone calls, played solitaire all night, got on a plane, headed to Baltimore. I got to ride in first class for the first time. And I looked like I was, I was 22 or 23 years old. I looked like I was 15. And I remember a businessman sitting in first class and I'm just looking around like somebody asked me where I'm going. Mm-hmm. And he's like, yeah, son, you look pretty young. Where are you headed? I said, I'm headed to Baltimore. I'll be playing the Orioles tonight. He looked at me. He goes, come on. I said, no, I'm serious. You want to come to the game? I'll leave you tickets. He's like, I can't go to the game tonight, but I'll be watching. He said, what are you going to do? Your first at bat. I said, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what the result's going to be, but it's going to be hit hard somewhere.
And you know what? Speaking of that,
it ended up working out.
Speaking of that, here it was right here. I'm going to show you the highlight. All right. I wanted to tell you about that businessman. I was like, wow. So here it is. You said, hey, I'm going to the big leagues and I'm going to hit the ball hard. So here it is. Your first big league at bat. Let's turn back
in California. Now the pitch. He lines one into right center field. That's going to be in there. Base hit. Rounding third and heading home is Jay Buhner. Here comes a throw into Bill Ripken. He'll hold the ball. And the Mariners have a run. And Bret Boone in his Major League debut. Man who singled it home.
Look how young you look at you. I don't think you haven't aged, man. Just that clean shave. That's all it is.
Yeah, I remember. I remember that. I remember getting the ball at first base, and once again, this played to my naivety. Uh, First baseman gave me the ball. He goes, "Hey, congratulations." He said, 2,999 to go. He said that to me. And I looked at him and I thought, I'm going to get a lot more hits than that. but I didn't realize what getting 3,000 hits was. So I didn't quite make it there, but I had the right attitude.
Oh, yeah, you sure did. So here's my question. Bret, when you came up, right? I mean, you had Ken Griffey Jr., you had Edgar, you had Jay Buhner. I mean, you had studs. Who took you under your wing? I mean, who took you on?
I was that guy right in the clip right there. Jay was probably hardest on me, but hardest in a big brother way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he would, man, he'd make me do something. If I was out of line, which I was a lot, you know, he'd me, hey, go over here and do that. Man, I'd finish a series on the road, and you know, I'd come in 0 for 4, and I'd go into my locker, and they'd cut the arms off my suit or all the buttons off the shirt or my suit just to kind of haze me. Back in the day, that's how they did it. And I'd be like, come on, man, I don't want to go on the plate with my shirt open. And then I'd get to the next city, and first day, Jay would say, hey, meet me in the lobby at 9 o'clock, and he'd take me to breakfast, and he'd take me and buy me a new suit. You know, he let me stay in his apartment up in Seattle when I first got to the big leagues. Guys let me use their cars, you know. So they really did. They were tough on me. They hazed me pretty good, but they took care of me. And Jay was probably I give him the credit of being the one that really took me under his wing.
Wow. Buhner hit bombs. Now, here's my question. Bret, as playing second base, right? You know, you won 4 Golden Glove Awards. But when you play second base, do you anticipate, when you get the scouting report against a good left-handed hitter, and you see a pitcher throw a curveball or a slider low and in, do you kind of cheat towards your left before the pitch comes a little bit? I mean, the focusing is unreal especially playing the infield. Did you anticipate?
Well,
no.
Well, yeah, you're explaining it kind of right, but it's a little more.
Say how you would, you know, like what I mean by that. You know, like how would you read the?
I don't know. It's different. It's an innate thing. It's something you learn. It's something that you don't, you know, I don't have to think about. It's like a dentist giving you the, you know, cleaning your teeth correctly. If I asked Eddie Mata to do it, I don't know if we'd come out of there very good. But for a dentist that does this for a living, it's simple. So it's not as complicated as that. It's innate. I look at the pitcher I got on the mound. I know how he locates you know, I know how he's locating that particular game. I've seen this guy hit hundreds of times, and I just react. And I I know where to be on pretty much every hitter. Now, if you get a guy, the toughest guys to do are somebody that doesn't have a really good control, maybe a 5th, 6th starter. That's maybe up from AAA, and he's nervous. He doesn't, you know, he calls for a fastball in and he misses up and away. And I got a rookie that just came up from AAA as the hitter. Well, that's going to be a little bit of a challenge for me. But that's not going to happen too often. You get a guy, you know, I played for in Atlanta 1 year. It's the easiest defense I've ever played. I had Maddox, Smoltz, Glavine. Millwood had a big year that year, and it's like, if Maddox or Glav, if they call fastball away, it's not, you know, if they miss by an inch.
Right.
So I know that I know if they miss, they're going to miss in the area they want to miss. And once you get around the big leagues, it's pretty easy. It was pretty easy for me. You know, I know these hitters. I know their tendencies. I know, you know, I can tell by their body language how they're feeling that day, whether they're struggling, whether they're in a, you know, they're hot right now. That gives away a lot of, there's a lot of tell in there. So, yeah, you explained it kind of right, but it's kind of simpler than that. It's nothing I have to really think about.
Right.
My brain just sees what's going on, and I know how to react.
But you see, you know what I mean, Bret? But here's the thing. When I hear these analysts talking about it, well, he read the pitch as a second baseman. Yeah. He takes away the hits away from the hitter. And I'm sitting there, well, that's too much thinking.
It's like Right, but it's like doing a show. You need content, right?
Right. Yeah.
So you got to fill some space. If you're the commentator,
Mm-hmm.
it would be boring if you just, you didn't say much. So,
Right.
the thing, sometimes I got to turn the volume down when I'm listening to games because, it's the easiest thing. There's a couple go-tos that everybody likes to go to, like, if the guy's struggling, well, he's 2 for his last 18, Bob, and he rolls over to the shortstop, for a 6-3 put up. Well, he's trying to pull everything.
Right.
Well, I just pulled my hair out. I said, no, right now he's not seeing the ball. Okay, he read fastball out of the hand, and it was a breaking ball, so he's gone. That's why he did it. I've never met a good hitter or hitter that thinks, man, I just want to pull the crap out of this ball as a shortstop for a can of corn.
Right.
So things get on my nerves because it's an easy, it'll pacify the audience a little bit, but somebody sitting at home with my brain, it drives me crazy. It's like watching a baseball movie with a Hollywood director that's got no clue.
Right.
They just put tobacco in everybody's mouth and think that's what baseball players do. And I'm sure in any profession, if you do that for a living and it's portrayed out there in the world, on the screen, you'd probably sit in the movie theater and say, well, that's not how it really is. Well, it's no different for baseball when they make a baseball movie.
Yeah. Well, no, I don't
know how we got to that. But.
No, that's fine. No, but I totally agree because, when it comes to the game of baseball, and if you try to portray a ball player, first of all, you got to know his swag, his walk, how the way he puts on his cleats, how the way he comes out of the dugout. You got to know all that shit. You know what I mean? There's little things like that a ball player like you would say, yep, he did portray it well. That is a ball player right there. But if a ball player disagrees, no, you don't hold a bat like that. You don't make contact like that. That was a shitty swing. You know what I mean? Like that's not a professional swing.
Right. Yeah, I was in the booth. In 2003, I was in the booth for that Yankee Boston series, and it was really tough for me because now it's easy for me to do and to come on shows and be honest and be critical of people when I need to be critical. I always make it a point. I'm never critical of somebody in an unprofessional way. I always try to keep the professionalism high. But when I was in the booth and I was doing the broadcast, I felt so vulnerable because I was a current player and I was commenting on the current players on the field. And I remember that particular series, Pedro drilled somebody on purpose. And I forget it. They ended up being in the big fight, and Don Zimmer got thrown on the ground. And that's
Yeah, that was.
And I remember Tim McCarver turning to me and say, "Hey, Boone, did Pedro hit him on purpose?" Well, I know damn well right now Pedro's sitting in that clubhouse watching me on TV, waiting to see what I'm going to say, and I've got to face him in 3 months.
Right.
So it's a tough position to be in as a current player. Now, as an ex-player, it's easy for me to comment, and like I said, keep the professionalism up, be critical, but be professionally critical. But back then it was tough, Alfonso Soriano was the second baseman for the Yankees at the time and ended up having a great career and a great player. But he wasn't the greatest second baseman defensively. So, of course, in the booth, he booted a routine ground ball. And they said, Bret, what did he do on that? And I'm just looking at him like, oh, no. And my brain tells me because he's not really that good of a second baseman, he should be in left field.
Right.
And he's got really lazy feet, and that's why he missed the ground ball. But my answer was, well, it happens to the best of us. Happens to me. And, and off camera, you're just kind of puking on yourself. But as a current player, that's what you got to do. And so that wasn't my greatest on TV moment, that particular series.
But you know what?
Because, I got critiqued when I got home by my teammates. And I said, let me tell you this. You try doing it when you're a current player. I said, that's hard to do. Criticize other guys that you got to go across the diamond from them in 3 months in a highly competitive situation.
Now,
when it's all said and done and you're an older player, you can do it.
Now, these players, they'll probably come up to you if you did criticize them, like, yo, what kind of shit was that, right? Would they call you?
Correct. And I would do that. I would do that, and I had some guys in my career that I thought sometimes crossed the line on their critique. And I thought guys that did it in the right way. When I was in Seattle, when I was the man in that clubhouse and I was the highest paid player on the team and I wasn't pulling my weight or doing well, I deserve that criticism. It's like we pay you a lot of money. You're the man on this team. You hit third every night, and you're 4 for your last 30, and we've lost 5 out of 6. If I want to get the praise when things are going good, I got to be able to take the criticism when they're bad. And a lot of people in my career, there's not too many times I had a problem with a broadcaster or somebody, a beat writer, someone in the newspaper. Once in a while I did,
Mm-hmm.
but I had much more good things happen than bad. And when I get criticized, if the headline in the paper the next day is, Boone needs to get it going. I'm just giving you something off the top of my
Right.
head. That was deserved. That was deserved. I believed in that. I believed when you get to a certain point in your career and you're one of the main guys in that clubhouse, I think you step up to the mic after the game, win, lose, or draw. Whether things are going bad or things are going good, I always prided on myself as answering the bell. I needed to man up, talk when, wire to wire coverage when things were going great. I needed to be accountable when things weren't going great. And I think, I think people in the media appreciated that from me, and I tried to be as respectful as I could to them. As a consequence, I had a lot of guys that took care of me pretty good and tried to say nice things, even when things weren't going good. They were a little softer on me because they knew I was there and I answered the bell for them.
Bret, do you think even when you played or now, let's say the guy cost them the game, would he go in the trainer's room and just hang out there for a while and just ignore the media? Do you think players did that?
It depends. I had teammates that would do that.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't believe in that. I know if I screwed a game up and it was me, if I made a big error, that didn't happen.
Okay. So listen, back to the two.
But yeah, I think if something happened in that game, if you were in a pivotal play in that game, or you were one of the main reasons why it didn't turn out very good, the first thing I did is let's get this over with. I don't want to avoid them and go back and hang out. Let's get this over with right now. Let's put it on the table. I screwed up. Yep. Boom, boom, boom. Ask my questions. Take my beating, and go do my after the game stuff. Go to do my training room or my workout, whatever I need to do. But I was always willing to step up from a media standpoint.
Right. Well, this is what I believe in. If you got the game-winning hit and you're all excited and you're going to talk to the media, well, then guess what? You better be talking to the media when it costs you the game. Simple as that.
Sure. When you screw up a big double play that would have ended the game and you don't get it done, well, answer the bell, because they're going to be right there praising you when you hit that three-run walk-off. So
right.
You got to take the good with the bad, and you got to take responsibility, especially when you get in a position in an organization where you are the man or you're one of the main guys.
Yeah.
When you're a rookie and you're just getting your feet wet, they tend to leave you alone a little bit. They don't really, they don't really want to talk to you. Right. When you're hitting 207, they don't really want to talk to you. When they're talking to you all the time, every day, all day, look at it as a form of flattery. Like you're doing something pretty good. They want to talk to you every day. And I looked at it that way.
Man, speaking of 2003, Bret, I'm going to show you the highlight of your reaction before. I'm going to do that in a couple of seconds. But I know your brother was struggling. My man was like 5 for 30. He had a shitty October. Nothing was going his way. But then the big brother steps up and gives him encouragement, which was by you.
Yeah.
You gave him encouragement. What did you tell him? What did you tell him before Game 7?
I went over to. I was in the city doing the TV, and I was kind of on a vacation. I was going out having nice dinners, drinks, whatever. And I went to his. I think he had an apartment. Him and his wife Laura were there, and I kind of went on to his house on a mission to kind of cheer him up. I mean, it wasn't very. What's the words I'm looking for? I had to fib a little bit, It's like, hey, Aaron, everything's going to be all right. Where I'm looking at his swing and I'm like, everything's not going to be all right. But I've been there before. Right. So I went in there, and Aaron kind of, he was down. I could tell he's sitting in the bed, and I just said, hey, man, cheer up, would you? He said, and you're right. It was the whole month, and he was having a real tough time in that series. And I just kind of, I'd been there because I have been there before. Mm-hmm. And I said, hey, This is baseball. It's the toughest thing in the world, is hitting. And I said, tomorrow, let me tell you, you might hit a big sac fly. I said, you might turn a big double play. All that matters is if you win tonight and you go to the World Series. I said, that's all that matters. And I said, it could be a sac fly, a base hit, a big double play at a key time, and nobody's going to remember what Aaron Boone did in this series. And I left him. I kind of kept it short, and I left him with that. And I got to the ballpark the next day, and he wasn't in the lineup. And as a big brother, I kind of felt bad, like he's not playing. And I remember him coming on deck and looking down, and it was Wakefield, and I'm thinking, well, the normal over-the-top righty with a 92-mile-an-hour fastball and an 86-mile-an-hour.
Well, Aaron's not seeing those. Aaron's not seeing those guys very good right now. But can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can still hear you. Yeah.
Okay. Comes up, and I just thought, come on, man, put a good swing on this ball. And I didn't expect that. One of the greatest home runs of all time. And I stood up, and I really had no words. And I remember the guy in my ear, the guy from the truck going, Bret, what's going on? Say something. And I said, and then he came back in my ear, and he said, no, less is more, less is more. But that was just my natural reaction. I was so happy for him because I knew how bad he was feeling. He didn't know he wasn't playing that day.
Right.
So Torrey benched him that day. And to come up in that situation, it couldn't be a more perfect storm. Red Sox, Yankees, Yankee Stadium, cold night, Game 7. You stink. You get a pinch hit opportunity, and you hit one of the biggest. It gives me goosebumps right now talking about it.
You know what?
To hit one of the biggest home runs ever.
I'm going to play it right
here. It was
here.
one of the coolest things I could see as a brother.
Listen, check this out. Here it was right here. And I love your reaction because you were truthful. You were just out of words, and here it is when he hit it.
Oh, that was what I was feeling,
11th inning in a 5-5 game. This is quite a night.
Oh, here we go.
Clearly, time is not an ally.
So you're a little nervous too.
I've just enjoyed watching it.
Yeah, I'm trying to be cool though. I'm trying to be cool.
Throughout, although
Got
the
the
Boston Red
glasses
Sox
on.
and the fans from New England
Looked like a GQ model.
They'll tell you they were 5 outs away.
Here's Aaron.
In
I'm
the
thinking, man, you stink. Come on, get it done.
As Boone hits it to deep left. That might send
And there it is. And he hits it, and it's not like it's one of those, it's a no-doubter off his bat. We all know. And now I'm just kind of going, wow. and I'll tell you, I was the type of player that particular Yankee team, that generation of players, I had a lot of respect for those guys. And there's a lot of good guys on that team. But as a player in my time,
but here you are right there.
It was almost like I forbade myself from ever going into the opponents. That's like going on a war lines. And I would never walk into a Yankees house as an opposing player. But that particular night, I walked downstairs. Like I said, I got to go give him a hug. And I kind of, went to security. I said, I'm going to be 10 minutes. And who wants to go to? We had a great Mariner team that year. We won 93 games. We didn't make it to the postseason. And now I got to watch these guys celebrate in front of me. I don't want that. But this was one of those circumstances where I made an exception. I went in. They're jumping up and down, drinking champagne. I go up, give them a hug. I said, that's unbelievable. And I got out of there. But that's something I would never do unless it was an extreme exception. And that night was.
Yeah, it was so and I felt for your brother because, I played college baseball. I know what it's like, slumping and just trying to get out of it. It's like you're trapped in a cage and you can't get out, And when he hit that, I said, he's a Yankee forever in our mind.
Yeah,
he's a hero.
That wrote his ticket right there.
I'd say he earned his stripes. Did we give a shit about the 5 for 30 before we did? But after that,
all because of my advice the night before.
Yes, we thank Big Brother Bret for hooking his brother up, but in reality, yeah, you suck.
Yeah. Come on. Well, because the thing is, because I know how tough this game is, and it's so hard, because I know that I've been in that position before. And I remember Aaron saying, well, you don't know what it's like to go what I'm going through right now. And I remember telling him, why don't you flip my baseball card over and look at a few years around 96, 97. I say, I know exactly what you feel like. And it's not fun. The only way I know is to grind my way out of it. and that's what you need to do.
Yeah.
So I remember, because I've had my share of humble pie in this game. Believe me, I've had my highs and I've had some lows. I had some crazy years in the mid '90s where I had some great years and some real tough ones. So I knew what it was like to be on the stage and everybody, music pumping and everybody chanting your name. But I also knew what it was like to be hitting 206 and not knowing if I was ever going to get another hit. So that's the game. That's what makes this game so unbelievable.
Bret, I never knew this about your brother, but holy shit, I just read this the other day. He had open heart surgery in 2009, and before the surgery, he was writing letters in case he don't survive?
Yeah, he wrote to his kids and to his wife.
Oh.
Yeah, I remember it was up at Stanford University. I was there with him. And, I think if you're the one going through it, it's different. I was very in lockstep with the doctors, and I wanted to hear, hey, what's going on? How's it looking? How you feeling? And he just kind of looked at me and he said, Bret, listen, nowadays, this is like riding a bike for me. He said, everything looks good. All the numbers look good. I feel really good about the surgery. Aaron's going to be fine. So I knew behind the scenes, because of what the doctor was telling me. I looked in his eyes and I saw, how you look in somebody's eyes and you don't see any fear. You see a lot of confidence. That's a good thing. Yeah. It's like when that plane starts shaking, you look at this, you look at the flight attendant and she looks calm. That's a good thing. If she starts to panic, start to panic. But, he was just in good spirits. So I didn't really have any, I wasn't scared or nervous. Anytime you go in and it's heart surgery. That's, to be the one getting it, that's got to be tough to hear those words. But I was as calm as I could be because of what the doctor was telling me, and it went really clean and safe, and he got out of there. And I think it changed his life a little bit. Aaron's always been a great guy, but he's truly he's a very faith-based guy. He's a great dad. But I think it humbled him a lot. Not that he wasn't humble before, but he just appreciates life on a different level because of going through, I think, what he went through. And to this day, I can hear it just in talking to him,
Yeah. He wrote letters before, like love letters?
Yeah, he didn't write one to me. But, he wrote one to his wife. And I think at the time, I'm trying to think if he had any kids yet. Brandon might have been born. I think he wrote a letter to his son and his wife. Yeah, and handed him letters.
Unreal. That I was like, no way, man. I met your brother for the first time in two.
Well, yeah, if you're with Aaron for any length of time, you'll know what I'm talking about. He's just that type of guy. He'll send me a a Bible verse here and there. He'll send me, hey, this is a really great pastor, really great church. Mm-hmm. I'm a big church guy. So that's just the way Aaron is. Yeah. And he likes to lead by example. He's a good guy. He's just like my dad. I mean, dad would, run a red light and write a letter, to the chief of police that he ran a red light, because he just can't take that guilt walking around life. I look at him sometimes and said, Dad, don't worry about it. That's just the type of character him and my dad both have. They're just good men. And, I think what Aaron went through, I always think about guys that I played with and you don't really see a lot of superstars at the top of the game that are real humble. Mm-hmm. You see a lot of stars of the game, but I always remember playing with the Johnny Olerud, and Big Rude had 1 or 2 batting titles. Probably the most humble star player I've ever been around. And I thought about it, and it's like, the guys that are that humble have been through some adversity in their life, and John Olerud was a perfect example, and yeah. He was one of the best college players I've ever seen, and he had a brain aneurysm in college. Yeah. So, guys like that, they've been through stuff before, and why is he so humble with how good he is? Well, if you've been through what he's been through, yeah, God has a way of humbling you, and so I look at life that way now. I came in with my hair on fire as a 22, 23-year-old baseball player. man, I've had a lot of great times. I've been through some tough times in my life, some humbling times, and it changed you as a person, as a father, as a friend. And I think we're all always changing. But now, when people ask me, what do? I do a little of this, I do a little of that. But my favorite thing to do, and the most important thing, is to raise my kids to be good men, to be young men. If I don't do anything else right, if I'm a good father figure for them, I teach them how to be a man, I did my job.
At Princeton University, now you guys are from the West Coast, okay? Baseball all year round in California, the state of California. Mm-hmm. What made your son pick Princeton besides the intelligence? I get it. It's a very, very good.
I think it came down to that.
It came down.
He's really, really smart.
Oh, okay.
And it was pretty simple, actually. He had some interest from some teams. Northwestern on the East Coast was interested in him, and but I noticed, his ACT score was really high, and his grades were off the charts at a really good high school. And I said, have you ever thought about Ivy League? And he goes, no. I said, why don't we take a ride? Why don't we take a trip back to the East Coast? And we set up some meetings with some coaches out there. We went to Dartmouth, and then we went to Princeton. Then we finished up our trip with Penn, all three in the Ivy League. And it happened to be a really great day because I grew up in Jersey as a kid. Mm-hmm. So we hit it on an unbelievable day. Birds chirping, about 78 degrees. Tours the camp. He goes, Dad, this is the biggest place. I said, I like this all the time. Trust me.
Right.
But, it came down to, it was a pretty simple conversation. I said, if you go to a Northwestern, I said, are you going to start as a freshman? And he said, probably not. I said, if you go to Princeton, are you going to start as a freshman? He goes, I got a pretty good chance. I said, it's a no-brainer for me. You're going to get the best education you can possibly get. And at the same time, you're going to get to do what you want to do and want to pursue in your life, which is being a baseball player. You're getting to do it as a freshman. Yep. Maybe not at the Northwestern level or an LSU type level, but it's still Division I college baseball. I said, that's the best of both worlds for me as a dad. You're going to make your own decision. But as a dad, I don't think you can go wrong with the Princeton education. And that's how it came to be. Scott Bradley, who's the coach, was actually a teammate of mine. He sent his guys out to an Arizona tournament. Jake had a great tournament, and I got a call from Scotty going, man, I'd love to have your son come to Princeton. And, wow. As soon as Jake heard that was his favorite place, on that trip that we went to. And he ended up signing his letter of intent. And now he's about to start his senior year in the fall.
I mean, before Aaron got the job with the Yankees, did he tell you about, like, hey, he's getting interviewed by the Yankees and stuff like that? How did that come
about? He had mentioned a little bit, but I wasn't sure it was that imminent. And I haven't really talked to him that much about it. Mm-hmm. I think a roundabout way. I think when Aaron, goes back to his days as a Yankee, he goes in there in 2003, and then that next year he goes out and he's playing pickup basketball and he blows his ACL out. And here's the thing that speaks to Aaron's character and integrity. Man, is I don't know too many guys with a $5 million contract because we're not going to play basketball. That's in our contract. That was a freak day where Aaron was supposed to go do all his cardio on the treadmill, but he saw a pickup basketball game. He's like, I could just play in this for 15 minutes and get my cardio in. It just happened to freak accident. Guy dove for a loose ball, landed on his knee, blown ACL. And I don't know too many guys that would be upfront and honest when they had $5 million on the line. He went to Cashman and he said, I want you to hear it from me. I was playing basketball. I know I'm not allowed to play basketball, and I blew out my knee. The Yankees voided his contract, and he had to go rehab for a year. And I just don't know too many guys that would go right to the GM and be that honest when you knew $5 million on the line. I think Brian Cashman respected that a lot, said a lot about Aaron Boone. He went to the booth. He did a lot of ESPN for 5 or 6 years. As you know, it seems like a lot of those ESPN games are the Yankees. Mm-hmm. So it makes sense to me. Aaron and Cashman are crossing paths a lot over those next 5 or 6 years. The Yankees are in a situation where they're kicking it around in the front office and say, hey, we're going to give a a newcomer a shot. Why not give Aaron Boone an interview? Next thing you know, he kills it in the interview, and he's the manager of the Yankees.
Right.
Pretty awesome story, though, but I don't think any of that would have happened if he wouldn't have had the knee injury in the pinstripes.
Yeah. Listen, but I don't know, man. I don't know if I should say this, but I'm not an A-Rod fan, to be honest with you. I especially October. I just wasn't a fan, man, because to me, I honestly think that he did not turn on the lights when the lights need to be turned on. And
well, I don't know. I mean, Alex has that personality where he's kind of polarizing.
Mm-hmm.
People that feel the way you do, and there's people on the other side of the ledger. The one you can't argue with Alex is the numbers are there. If you just break it down and look at his numbers, he's the top 5 greatest players in the history of this game, and I don't even think it's arguable. So I feel you. I know what it's like being a New Yorker. I've been around a lot of them, and love him or hate him, is what he is to you guys in New York. I know he had one big series, and you guys won the World Series. But I look at Barry Bonds in a similar. He's a polarizing guy. Greatest player I've ever seen by far. No one's even close.
Oh.
And it took him a long time. He was always criticized for his Pirate postseasons, and I think finally he broke through is when he had that Angels series where he was just. But that was a point in his life where you couldn't even pitch to Barry Bonds. He was that good. He was playing slow pitch softball, and the rest of us were playing. So
yeah,
two of the greatest ever. But I completely see your feelings. Like I said, they're polarizing personalities as well as players.
All right. Well, you know what it is, man. October is huge in New York, man, and you got to step it up for the Yankees in October. There's a lot of Octobers he failed, and I'm gonna be honest with you.
I where you come from, and that's what makes this game the greatest game in the world.
Yeah.
And that's why I love going to New York, because I'll tell you, those crowds can be tough on you, but even as an opposing player, when you have a big series and you kick the Yankees' butts, I'll tell you, they're right there willing to give you ups. And I remember that with Yankee Stadium. I'd sit there, and I'd always argue with guys on deck. Not argue in a bad way, but in a fun way. But, I mean, if I had a rough series, man, I was going to hear about it from these guys. But I'll tell you, those series, when I was having a really good series, I'd come home after hitting a home run, and every one of those right off on deck would be giving me this sign, and I'd be giving them a thumbs up. But I'll tell you, when I had an 0 for 4, I knew I had an 0 for 4. But that's what I loved about New York. I loved going there. I loved walking down the street before I go to the ballpark, and some random guy from the other side of the street will just yell, "Yo, Boone, you suck. We're going to kick your ass tonight." No other city do you have something like that where they're so into their sports, they're so passionate about their sports. That East Coast, that Boston, New York, Chicago with the Cubs, everywhere's not like that. And it's as a professional athlete, that's the only place you want to be where your sport is taken that seriously. New York's definitely one of those places.
Hey, Brett, speaking of hitting a bomb against us, look at this shot you hit. I think it was the 0-1 October. Hit a bomb in Yankee Stadium. Watch this shit.
Coming up tonight.
I mean, you just watch
Game
this.
4 of the Braves and Diamondbacks is Boone. Skies one to deep center field. Back is Williams. It is gone. Monstrous home run from Boone.
Brett, I think you started the bat flip. I think you started that first, didn't you?
Well, people say I did. I don't necessarily think that's true. I think who kind of I liked his flip, and it was nothing much. It was more of was a Dante Bichette. I used to watch him and the way he got rid of the bat, and I just started flipping it a little bit one day, and it just kind of morphed it into its own little world. And my teammates loved it, and the fans of Seattle loved it. I didn't take it serious, I just started doing it. Pitchers, and I was getting into the generation in the early 2000s, pitchers were getting to that point where they'd strike you out, and they're going to let you know they strike you out with a pump fist and a twirl. And I remember I used to look at pitchers like, I'm going to get you.
But you know what? Then I thought to myself, that's what makes them tick. Maybe that's what makes them successful. So when I flip my bat, you're gonna have to wear it. And I didn't mean any disrespect by it.
Right.
When I'd flip my bat, I'd be on my way to first. And like I said, it's something that just kind of took a life of its own on, and my teammates especially loved it, and the fans of Seattle loved it. So I just kept doing it, and I really didn't care. It's like, if you want to hit me for it, hit me, and if I hit another one, I'm going to flip it farther. And that's the way I took it. I didn't take myself serious. I didn't mean any disrespect. There was one guy that didn't like it. He was a great, really good friend of mine and a great teammate, Aaron Seeley.
Mm-hmm.
He told me when I played with him in Seattle, he said, Bret Boone, if we play against each other one day and we're not on the same team and you take me deep, will you do me a favor and not flip your bat? And I said, Aaron, for you, I will. And we were in Anaheim, and he gave one up. I hit one into the rocks, and I remember that conversation, and I set my bat down, and I ran around the bases, and I remember Aaron Seeley from the mound tipping his cap to me, and he goes, "You remembered."
Yeah, you're a man of your word. I love that. I got one more question. Bret, after when Boone hit the home run, did you guys party that night, or you guys just went home?
You know what? That's kind of in the foggy range for me, but I remember getting a call from Aaron, said we're having a private party, for team and family members only. And I remember finding this discreet bar, and it was, kind of marked off. It was the Yankees only. I went in, and I think I did a toast. And I don't know if it was Bernie that asked me to do it. Somebody said, Bret, you got to give the toast. And I remember getting up on a crickety chair, and I raised my glass, and I said, ladies and gentlemen, for one night and for one night only, I'm happy to be Aaron Boone's brother. Jumped off the chair and walked out of the bar. That was it.
I love it.
Like, I don't like partying with the opponent. I don't care how good a guy you are.
Mm-hmm.
You're the Yankees, and at the time, I don't like you.
Right.
So, I got in for Aaron, and I got out.
That's awesome.